Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and as you can see, I'm in the car again for the second straight episode. Now, on this trip, in this episode, I was heading down to my place in West Virginia, and I decided to stop off at a familiar place that I have spotlighted a couple times on this channel, the Factory Outlet Mall here in Verona, Virginia. And this is a place I discovered last year by watching another YouTube channel that had stopped here. I believe it was Why Not Comics. And I realized that I had been stopping at this exit where this Factory Antique Mall was every trip I made down to West Virginia. And it's only because one of my favorite Dairy Queens is here, so I stop off, treat myself on these trips. But right off that exit is what they say is the world's largest antique mall. So what I'm going to do is, it's been a few months since I've been here. I'm hoping that they've got some new inventory with the dealers that have comic books. And what's nice right now, especially in these trips like this where I don't have a lot of time, I've been here before. I know where the comic books are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run in here. I'm going to check out the dealers that I know who have the comics. And what's nice is they are close to the front of the store, and there are a couple others, and I'll run around and see if I can find anything else as well. But I'm not going to be exploring a lot of the anybody new having comics. I kind of know where some of the things are. But we'll keep our eyes open as we're going from the dealers that I do know are here. Anyway, I'm going to stop here, and I possibly may stop at another little antique mall just up the road as well that actually has a huge amount of comics. So that's the plan today, is that we're going to be revisiting this antique mall and the one other. And what I'm going to do is I'll go into this one, we'll do some footage, and then we'll come back and then I'll show you the footage. Hopefully I'll film some from the other store, antique mall as well. And at the very end, we'll come back, and then if I've got any books, I'll show them off to you. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. I just finished up at the Factory Antique Mall, and I ended up striking out there. I went through the comics from the couple dealers that I know have comics there, and I just didn't find anything that was jumping out at me. And even though there was a couple things that were kind of intriguing, I just didn't feel like it was worth putting the money into it, so I walked away. And we will head to the next antique mall here in Verona, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up some things there. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. All right, so here I am at the second antique mall here in Verona, Virginia. This is another place that I have been to before. This is Verona Antiques, and as I said, I've been here before. I know at the very back of the store, there is a dealer back there that has multiple tables filled with comics. Now, the last time I was here, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of time to go through every bin, and I did managed to find a few things, including a really good old book that reprinted some Golden Age comics that I picked up that I talked about in a previous video. And if I remember, I will put that link at the end of the video here so you can go back and watch that episode. But it's been a few months since I've been here. I don't know if the stock has changed, but I'm going to run in and I'm going to see what else I can find. We struck out at the Factory Antique Mall, but maybe we'll do better here. So stay tuned and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back in the car. I just finished up at Verona Antiques. I went through, you saw the footage of some of the comics that they had there, and I went through a lot of those boxes. And it's a lot of 90s books that are just mass produced. There's definitely some older stuff in there. There's definitely some newer stuff in there. And what I was finding was some pretty good things if you want to find run fillers for certain titles. I wasn't necessarily looking for that, but I did find a few things. I did better here than I did at the Factory Antique Mall. I actually picked up a few things, fun books, favorites of mine, and it wasn't too expensive, and I picked up a few. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get back home, and I'll sit down and I will show you what I picked up at Verona Antiques. All right, so I finally made it back home, or at least to my home in West Virginia. On this trip, I stopped off at Factory Antique Mall and Verona Antiques. Both of these antique malls are in Verona, Virginia, and if you're watching the video now, you just watched a little bit of footage from both places. And I have spotlighted both antique malls at least once, or not maybe twice, on the channel already. And it had been several months, maybe at least 3 months since I had been back to either of these. So I stopped off on this trip and wanted to see if they had some new stock in both places. Spend a little time and see what I could find. So that's what I did. You saw the footage from both of them. You've already heard me talk about the fact that I did not find anything worth buying at the Factory Antique Mall. Now, that is a fantastic mall. I tell you, that place was packed when I stopped there. So many people were in there antique shopping, and things were being bought, and there were people all over the place. There was even people going through the comic bins, which I had never seen before. But unfortunately, I did not find anything new that was worth getting this time. That's okay. We'll give it a few more months and we'll come back. It's an easy trip because I love stopping in Verona, Virginia. If for nothing else, I get my Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Blizzard at the local DQ that's right there. So we'll visit Factory Antique Mall again in the future. Now, Verona Antiques, you saw that. I actually did find a few books in there. Now, it was a little bit close to closing time, so I had to stop going through all the boxes. I was thumbing through. To be honest with you, it was a lot of 90s books. I think I already said that before. There's definitely some things in there a little bit older that weren't in very good condition. There were things that were newer. There were some newer books in there. But it really felt like just a lot of bulk comics, not a lot of keys. But I did manage to come away with a few books, and nothing major, nothing major. So if you guys are planning to go there and you think you're going to make a score of a lifetime, I don't know. There were some books in the display that were some better keys. You saw that in the footage, but even those were, the conditions were just not there, especially for the prices that they had put on those books. But let's go through the books that I found at the Verona Antiques shop, or it's just a store. I think it's just called Verona Antiques. But anyway, so I got in there, and I'll be honest with you, one of the things I wanted to go back and double check, because I knew they had them, and I didn't take time the last time I was in there, and I wanted to see if they still had them. They had multiple copies of some of the issues of the Watchmen, and I remember going through them last time, and they were about $10 a piece. And I don't know why I didn't take the time last time to go through. Those are books that, while the front may look fantastic, you need to inspect the backs. The backs have this very flat red and black, red or just black surface. And depending on the issue, if you know what I'm talking about, there is a blood drip that every issue it comes down a little bit further over the black background. So I will tell you this, color rub on the back of that issue shows up very easily, and that's one of the things that will knock it down very quickly when you try to get it graded. So I had determined to go back there, and hopefully I could find those books in all of those boxes. I had an idea of where they were. It took me about 10 minutes before I could finally find them. And I took time, I opened up every one of those bags and boards, and I looked at the books, and every one of them had enough scuffing on the back that I put them all back. So didn't get the Watchmen. So those were some pretty good books, but they weren't going to be worth me getting them and getting graded. I already have multiple copies of all of those. These weren't issues one. The issue one was not there, and some of the other issues weren't there, but it was mostly the middle ones. So I started going through the boxes, and I started finding a few things, and it was one of those, do I really even want to go down this road of picking up some of the stuff? And I felt like there were some things in here that I found interesting, so I went ahead and did this. So let's start with the first set of books that I picked up. It's not a set, but I bought all 5 issues in this storyline, so I'm making it a set. And I bought this specifically to basically as a possible resale type of thing. I may put this together on eBay as a set of books because it is one of my favorite 5-issue stories I've ever read. It is from Batman Legends of the Dark Knight. And this is issues 11 through 15. And I'll show you all of these in a second. And this is the story, if you remember the original Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, it is the original stories of Batman as early in his career. It's not year one, but they are very early adventures telling stories like this. And in what they did was, at the very beginning, I'm not sure how long they kept this up, but every 5 issues or so, I believe it was every 5 issues, it was a story arc. In fact, the storyline, I think right after this one, is called Venom, and that is the origin of the Venom that Bane uses. And that was that origin. It's kind of neat. Batman actually had some of that and kind of swore away from that. There was a whole reason why he tried that. But that's a different storyline. So what they were doing was these 5-issue storylines. Well, here is this one right here. And let me just show you that this storyline is called Prey. And it is by Doug Moench and Paul Gulacy. And you had me right there with Paul Gulacy no matter what, especially in the, when was this? This was 1990 and 91, many years after his Master of Kung Fu, but he'd only gotten better at this point. I mean, his art in this time period was fantastic, and this whole series was just absolutely stunning artwork. But there's issue 11, 12, there's 13. And that's the one I'm gonna pull back, and I'll hold it up here in a second. 14, and then 15. So the reason I'm holding this up here is because you actually have Hugo Strange on the cover here, and that is the main protagonist in the storyline. And great story. You could see this as a movie. I mean, just, guys, take this story and put it in the movie. Don't change it. This is really fantastic stuff. Hugo Strange figures out who Batman is. It wasn't hard to figure it out. Now, Batman convinces him that he's wrong, which kind of drives him a little insane, or more insane. But this is a fantastic storyline. I actually own one page from one of these issues. I'm not sure which one it is, but it has the Night Scourge, which is the character that you see. There we go. You see, whoops, let's go this way. Right there. And it's one of the it has a picture. It features him on the page a little bit there. It's the only time I've ever seen a page come available from this whole series, and I scooped it up when I could. But what a great series! Definitely. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this together as a set, because I've got this set. I've actually got multiple sets of these already, and one set, my original set, I actually got signed by Paul Gulacy. I've never got to meet Doug Minch, though, and that is something I would like, because what a wonderful Batman writer, and the 70s Marvel writer. He had his hand, Moon Knight, guys, Moon Knight, right? He had his hands in a lot of stuff, just like all those young writers from the 70s, like Steve Englehart and Gary. Who else was there? There was a whole list I was thinking of, but those are the two prominent ones that really come to mind for me. And these were after Stan had stopped writing, and just some great stories. Anyway, great storyline. Hope you guys can pick that up sometime. So then I started going through the rest of the boxes, and what I'm not finding is anything of note that, like, I'm trying to find a key that I can get graded, maybe make some money out of it. Honestly, I wasn't finding any of that. Even the stuff on the walls, there were a couple of decent books on there that if you had taken them and gotten them graded, maybe a little bit, but a lot of them, especially the ones on the wall, you could see the condition real close, and you could already see spine ticks and things like that. So I passed on everything else on the wall. So I just started going through the boxes, thumbing through them, finding things of interest. Well, I found something here I'd never had before, which was, this is the first issue of the official Marvel Index to the Fantastic Four. And what caught my eye, of course, was this beautiful, there we go, here, this beautiful John Byrne cover with a lot of the early characters from the original Fantastic Four, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee. And I always like it when you see John Byrne doing the original characters. In fact, there is a beautiful poster illustration that John Byrne did of the Fantastic Four, and it is surrounded by probably just about every character Lee and Kirby created through their run of Fantastic Four. And I'm not talking about side characters. I'm talking about villains and allies in there. And it's just a wonderful poster. And this kind of reminded me of that just a little bit. So I picked that up. And if you go through this book, it really is a lot of, they give you a picture of the original issues, and it's a lot of synopsis. It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of reading for this. There's no artwork in this other than just the pictures of the original comics, but you don't see the interiors. They don't do anything else like that. But it gives you a full breakdown of the storyline for each issue. And I think the first one goes up to, I want to say about issue 13, maybe 14, somewhere in there. And then I was hoping I would find a run, because I did find the third issue of that. So I just went ahead and picked that one up. I mean, these things are $3 a piece, $2 a piece. Not spending a lot of money on this, but I found that interesting. This is not a spec thing. This is just a fun thing for me to pick up to read. Now, this one, though, may have some legs to it, and I picked it up because one reason was it's a beautiful copy. And it wasn't even bagged and boarded. You can see it's still in the bag, but it's not boarded. And looks like a beautiful copy. But it's also a newsstand. And it is Batman Adventures number 7. And it's a newsstand. And I'm telling you, I can't find on, other than Cover Price. Cover Price is where I usually find the prices on things that have sold. Now, I've found some sold 9.8s with a direct version, but I couldn't find a price on there for a newsstand. Well, so I went to eBay just to see if there's anything available like that at all. And it turns out there are 2 9.8s that are on there right now. They haven't sold, so take that for what it is. both of them are asking for, I think it's around that $330 9.8 on the newsstand like this. And both of them listed as the ultra rare newsstand variant. Now you got to think, this is 1993. Newsstands are starting to go away pretty much. So that's a really, I think this is the big find really for me at this antique mall. And I didn't think about it much. It was only after I picked it up. I picked it up because it was a beautiful copy. They actually had another copy there, and I kind of wish I wasn't thinking multiples. I wasn't thinking at the time. I really was running out of time, and I should have looked at all of them and probably picked up multiples of this one if I could have. But that right there was a really good pickup, I think. And I'm looking on the back because, like I said, no bag and board, and the black cover with an ad back there, and I'm looking at that, and that is a minty copy right there. All right, so like I said, it was a lot of 90s books, a lot of 80s, early 2000s, but they did have some older things in there, and I found a copy of this. I'd never had this, but I went ahead and picked it up because I felt like it was in pretty good shape, at least spine tick wise. But it can definitely, you put your hand to it, you can definitely tell, definitely needs a press. So I'm hoping that it's not water stained. But what do you want for $2? It's Marvel Premiere number 35. This is the, whoops, there you go, the first appearance of the 3D Man. I figured why not? I'd give it a shot, just for shits and giggles. A 9.8 just recently sold for $162. So it's not like this is a book that I may have fun with trying to clean and press, and let's see where I can take it. If it doesn't look like I can get that. If it's a water stain, it's an end story right there. That's the end of that. But if this presses out as well as I think it might, this may be a candidate. So it should be kind of fun. This is from 1977. So as you can tell, you got some really good Jack Kirby art right there. But $2. That was a pretty decent pickup. And the only other one I picked up, and it's not because I don't have it. It's only because you never know when this book is going to hit with the XMen. Came out in the early 90s, and every now and then you hear it being talked about, but it's not valuable at this point. But, I mean, in fact, a 9.8 only sold for $70 recently. It's XMen 2099, and just because it's a cardstock cover, and they had multiples of this, and this one I knew I was only going to get one, but I looked for one that had a really nice spine and no spine ticks or any creases or anything like that. But I picked that up more just to have an additional copy if this ever becomes something. I'm not going to send this in to get graded, I don't think, at this point. But I may just keep it as a raw, and if this becomes a thing, which I kind of doubt, I've got an extra copy of it. That's all it was. But that's what I ended up picking up at the Verona Antiques shop. I keep calling it shop, just Verona Antiques. And there's a few more boxes to go through, and I didn't get to go through everything, as I said. So next trip down, I may stop in just to finish that up. It doesn't look like the inventory turns over too much, but I will tell you this, it does somewhat, because in the 3 or 4 months since I'd been there the last time, there were some boxes on one end that definitely had a lot newer books within the last probably 5 to 10 years. And like, well, I don't remember that from the last time. So there is some new inventory that comes in there occasionally, but it's still the same kind of just bulk comics. Again, I didn't see anything that just stood out. So take it for what that is. But you guys should give it a shot. If you're ever down 81 in Verona, Virginia, you should check out both of these locations, not just for comics, for everything else too. There's so much other stuff there that you may be interested in. You may, as a collector, or just for your own home or decor or as presents. Both of them are really nice places. Hope you guys get a chance to stop there at some point. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any comments on anything I've bought so far and want to know anything more about these antique malls, definitely leave me a comment in the comment section. And If you guys are ever interested in any of the books that I show on the channel, definitely reach out to me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com or DM me on my Instagram account. You can also check out what I currently have for sale right now in my eBay store and on my Shortbox page. Both of those links are in the description of the show down below. But that's it, guys. Thanks for joining me today. Join me for the next episode where we will talk about more comics. Right now, I don't have that on tap. We will figure out what that show is going to be, but I'm sure we'll have a good time at it. So take care, and remember, every comic has a story.